Yo, it's your boy Colin, aka Colin Trades CSP, back with you with another week. I hope everyone had a great and successful trading week last week. As you saw, we did break to new highs when it comes to the overall market. The stock market is pushing to new all-time highs, and so now we're looking at the potential question is how much further does this market want to go? As you clearly see, QQQ breaking up to new highs, S&P 500 breaking out of its recent channel to the upside. So we're definitely going to be taking a look at the overall stock market to see exactly how we wish to proceed moving forward in this coming weeks. And then when it came to the Iran news, as we saw this past week, when it came to Monday, we saw that the negotiations were completely off. And then come Thursday and Friday, we were going to be sending over Witkoff to Pakistan to negotiate, which then recently we actually declined, and due to the fact because Trump does not know exactly what the current leadership is and looks like in Iran. So all negotiations are currently still at a pause, but we are currently in a 2-week ceasefire. So that is somewhat bullish for the market to see if any type of negotiations can be sorted. But as of right now, no negotiations are currently at the moment, and the Strait of Hormuz is currently experiencing a blockade between Iran and US. So that is at as a standstill. But as of right now, the market looks to be and continue to be in a bullish uptrend. So with all of that information, I hope you guys had a very successful trading week last week. So let's sit back, relax. Let's see how we can plan it out for this new and upcoming trading week, as we have the most important and most impactful earnings week, but also impactful when it comes to the economic news as well. All right, so sit back, relax. Hope you guys enjoy this video. If you can, please hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the bell notification for other notifications when I do post more videos, as I do plan on posting other type of trading videos throughout the next coming weeks. So hit the subscribe button and subscribe for more content like this. All right, so first, like always, I like to make sure I take a look at the economic news, see exactly what is coming up this week, as we do have some pretty interesting things, especially when it comes to introducing the potential of the new Fed, Kevin Walsh. So he is definitely going to be very, you can say, bullish for the market as of right now, as we believe that he'll be the one to potentially allow for rate cuts in 2026. But looking at the economic news, Monday, April 27th, nothing looks to be scheduled. Tuesday, April 28th, S&P Case-Shiller Home Price Index, nothing really. Consumer confidence, definitely something to keep an eye on. Wednesday, April 29th, the more impactful day. Durable goods, minus transportation, house starts, building permits, house starts, building permits again, advanced U.S. trade balance in goods, advanced retail inventories, and advanced wholesale inventories. So a lot of information that's be coming in at the 8:30, but all eyes will be on Wednesday at 2 p.m. FOMC rate decision, which of course, as of right now, we are getting a potential just a pause, nothing crazy. And then we have the Fed Chair Powell speaking, which I believe this is his last speaking before the new Fed comes into play. So that's definitely something we're going to need to keep an eye on if he tries to do anything before he leaves, or if this is going to be some type of bullish catalyst for him to leave out on a good note. Thursday, April 30th, initial jobless claims, employment costs, GDP. That's definitely something to keep an eye on, how the GDP, growth domestic product, is looking. Personal income, personal spending, PCE index, PCE, core PCE, definitely something to keep an eye on. Comes to this week, business barometer, U.S. leading economic indicators. So very impactful Wednesday and Thursday, and then Friday finishing off with the S&P U.S. Manufacturing's PMI and ISM Manufacturing's. So when it comes to economic news, we definitely need to make sure we're paying attention to these stuff as it can fluctuate the market, especially when it comes to Wednesday. If there's no news Monday and Tuesday and everybody is getting ready for Wednesday, be prepared for some flat markets Monday and Tuesday. And now, when it comes to earnings this week, we do have a very impactful earnings across the board, especially when it comes to Wednesday after the close. We have 4 out of the 7 MAG 7 stocks reporting all after the close on Wednesday. So that is definitely everybody's going to be keeping an eye on there. That being Amazon, Microsoft, Meta, and Google. Those are 4 we'll be reporting on Wednesday after the close. And then, of course, the 5th of the MAG 7, Apple, closing after the close on Thursday. And then some key notable names definitely to keep an eye on to see, when it comes to the overall market. I'll be keeping an eye on a Chevron Friday after the close. I'm going to be keeping an eye on Royal Caribbean Monday or Thursday before the bell. Definitely going to be keeping an eye when it comes to the consumer side. SanDisk, as it had such a major run this year, to see exactly if this plans on potentially giving us a dip buy opportunity, or is this going to just continue to pump. Next is Chipotle. I'll be definitely keeping an eye when it comes to the consumer side. And then, of course, SoFi, I will definitely keep an eye on Wednesday before the close. UPS when it comes to shipping. Like, there's a lot of impactful names. Hilton, Visa, Starbucks, and Robinhood after the close on Tuesday. So a lot of fun when it comes to earnings this coming week. Me personally, I do not trade earnings, but when it comes to looking at the overall economy and how it looks, I do like to keep an eye on these, as these companies give forward guidance to see exactly how they see what's going to happen in the coming months for the next quarter and potentially finishing out the year. So those are some names I'm going to be keeping an eye on this coming week. When it comes to it, very impactful when it comes to Wednesday after the close to keep an eye on. So, yeah. Like I said, it was a very busy and fun week last week with the overall market pushing to new highs. Nothing really impactful happened over the weekend, which is a first in a while, so that's good to know. But looking at the weekend overall market, it just looks like we're currently flat at the moment, and most likely will be opening up flat come Sunday at 6 p.m. when the market does open up. So nothing really to worry about coming Monday, as of right now, of course. We'll see when getting closer to that 6 p.m. open. Now, looking at the overall market, like I said, I always like to keep it, just basically show exactly what my thoughts are when it comes to these coming weeks. So definitely something I'm going to be keeping an eye on when it comes to come Monday. If the overall market does want to pull back, is do we hold this channel breakout that we have gotten over here? So it looks like once come Thursday of Thursday of a couple weeks ago, we broke out to the upside. We channel traded for a couple days on the S&P 500, so topping out roughly around that 712 area and the bottom range of 702, 700 psychological level. So it looks like we range bounded for a couple days, and then now come Friday, we did finally get the breakout. So let's see if we can get an extension to the upside. So what I like to do here is I'm going to show a little rectangle here to the bottom half of this, top side of this, and then copy and paste. So this is potentially range bounding. So basically what's going to happen is we break out of this top range, and now the top of this range looks to be roughly around that 720, 722 area for the tops and bottom side. So let's see if we can range bound here and now to the breakout, and let's see if we can touch the top of this range, which then we can just continue to get higher and higher, slowly building stepping stones to touch the new 618. Definitely people are going to be keeping an eye on from the breakout from recent highs. at 740 that I have currently marked out. So that's what I'm looking at on SPY. As you can see, we were range bounding for a bit, break out to new highs, and now let's see if we can just continue slowly grinding this market a little bit higher. Now, I don't know exactly personally when this 740 will be hit, but with this breakout of recent highs, the longer we stay over previous all-time highs, the longer my thesis is that the more certainty that that thesis is going to happen, that 740 is the next potential price target that I'll be keeping an eye on. Now looking at the tech names, QQQ, same thing, but the thing is with QQQ, due to the fact because Intel reporting earnings, I believe it was Wednesday or Thursday after the close, allowing for them to report very, very good earnings. I think it was a quadruple beat. A lot of the tech names like AMD pushed to new highs, NVIDIA pushed into highs. A lot of the tech names pushed into new highs, allowing for QQQ to get that squeeze above its overall range bound before the S&P did. So as you can see, this area was definitely something I was keeping an eye on. 650 psychological level as we broke out of the recent highs. We basically range bounded for a bit, broke out, and then once AMD reported that, or Intel reported that earnings, QQQ was just basically out liftoff, basically making into new highs, getting closer to that 618 at 685 area. So something I'm going to be keeping an eye on, especially going into this recent earnings, is the tech names: Microsoft, Meta, AMD, NVIDIA, Apple, all of those names, as QQQ is heavily favored in those tech names. So if those stocks report very good earnings, then this one is going to continue to move higher, and most likely will beat the S&P 740 if QQQ and all the tech names start to report very good earnings. I can definitely see 685 happen sooner rather than later when it comes to this. But as of right now, I will continue to be bullish into this market as we continue to make new higher highs and just continue to slowly grind up on this. So definitely keep an eye on this as we continue to push higher into the overall market with these tech names reporting earnings soon. Now what I'm going to do moving forward, I know I said this in my previous video or 2 videos ago that I was not going to showcase the futures, or I was not going to showcase individual names. Now moving forward, because I decided me personally to trade the individual names again, I will be showcasing individual stocks I'll be paying attention to for these coming weeks. But personally, I'll be keeping an eye on is the MAG 7. So moving forward in these videos, I'll explain every single of the MAG 7 stocks of what I'm personally looking at, because that is one of my favorite trades or favorite stocks to trade at the moment because of the liquidity and everything. Very volatile moves when it comes to these individual names. So first off, I'm going to basically go down the list I have is going to be Tesla. So Tesla I had marked out was this 404, 405 area as that psychological resistance, and then potential support at this 350 psychological level as potential support. So literally, if you start to zoom out, Tesla has just been slowly grinding down. And also too, on this 4 hour, I don't know if you guys can see it, but I see it right now. I do see this trend line break that happens. So as you can see, we touched this multiple times, just slowly trending down. And now Tesla hit this overall support area of this trend of the breakout. Let's see if Tesla can basically move off of this trend and start to push back higher. So give me something like this, come down to this 360, 365 area, and then potentially start to push back up into this 400 resistance. Now, of course, that would be then if invalidated. If we then come down, just continue to flush, the overall market continues to flush, and then we look to retest this 350 psychological level, which then I'll be looking at maybe potential supports back at this. But of course, if we do decide to continue to break down, I wouldn't mind taking this as a potential short as well, entering at the retest of that 350 psychological level. So those are the two key levels I'm going to be keeping an eye on. Of course, like I said, we did get a very nice trend line break. Let's see if we can hold this as potential support and then look to push off of that, entering longs right after that level to push off into 400 psychological. All right, next I'm going to keep an eye is Meta, one of the next MAG 7. So one of the things I notice when it comes to it, and of course I will not trade due to the fact because they report earnings, is this coming week. But the one thing I did like when it came to it is this level right here. I love this level as a potential support, as we do have a psychological 600 level, but also, as you can see, tested this level multiple times as a key support. So, and then when it comes to resistance, really the only resistance is what we're sitting at right now. So as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6, unable to break this now. So one thing I'm going to be keeping an eye on, especially with earnings coming week. If earnings is good, then of course, then the one thing we want to make sure happens, can we get a break over this 680 to then start to use this as potential support and then push back up into all-time highs. Not there yet, but getting close to it. As you can see, this 740 is going to be the first stop into all-time highs. If we can hold this and break this 680 as a potential resistance. So that's going to be the first key level I'm going to be keeping an eye on. As you can see, this level has held for a minute now. So this is definitely I'm going to be keeping an eye on going into this week, this 680 psychological level. If this dude does decide to fall, then of course, then I'm going to be keeping an eye on 600 as the psychological level for the bounce back into 680. All right. Next, Amazon. Amazon's been on an absolute tear recently and pushing into new highs. So Amazon also reporting earnings on Wednesday, so hands off, but definitely something to keep an eye on as going into earnings. Does this previous all-time high resistance now become support and push this into new all-time highs? That is definitely going to be the key eye I'm going to be looking at. Is does this all-time highs levels roughly around that 260 255 area hold as potential support and then push this back into new highs? So tested here, so we got here as resistance, now breaking out. Can we see now push this into new all-time highs? Of course, then if you do the Fibonacci retracement pushing up to new highs, really 297 is the fib, but 300 psychological is something I would definitely keep an eye on going into earnings. And then if the market does push to the upside, 300 psychological is something I'm going to be keeping an eye on. Next, Google. Google had a insane run as well from the March lows, as you can see. So basically look at that move, well over 26% off its lows, and now looking at all-time highs just like the other names. So when it comes to Google, really I with this momentum, I would not look to short it until we get into this right here, 350 psychological level, previous all-time highs. Again, reporting earnings on Wednesday, so something to keep an eye on. When it comes to that, do we get over 350? Retest longs. That's when I'll most likely take a look at it. Does 350 want to hold and break? And do we want to look then next, most likely at 380? Next potential long idea. Apple. This one I really like also. As you can see, trend line break right here, 1, 2, 3, broke out here 4, gave the retest 5. Does this want to hold and then continue up to 280? Also reporting on earnings Thursday after the close, and we do also have Tim Cook stepping down, So if Tim Cook and the new CEO, Tim Cook being on the board, and if the new CEO can't innovate, definitely going to earnings would be a nice way to report it. Let's see if we can hold this trend line right here and push this up into 280, and then look at the new all-time high break at 288 to then go into 290. That is something I'm going to be keeping an eye on when it comes to this week, see how this one's going to play out. But as of right now, nice 4-hour trend break. This can just hold 280 target easily. If this does start to flush, break under 260-ish area, then I would definitely wouldn't take a look at this until we get back into this original support we have here at 248, 250 psychological level. All right. Nvidia. A nice move to the upside. This one broke out my resistance that I had out, the 195 psychological level. It did give that retest of that 195, now breaking out to new highs. Let's see if we can break all-time highs at 212. If we can break all-time highs at 212, this one can definitely start moving. 242 is my Fibonacci break of the all-time highs, with Nvidia being one of the last people to report. Definitely keep an eye on this one. If the overall market is pushing to the upside and Nvidia pushes over all-time highs with the overall market pushing to all-time highs, once this thing does report earnings, let's see if we can get a squeeze into this Fibonacci retracement at 242. And then, of course, everybody has been wanting it, 250 psychological level. So definitely something I'm going to be keeping an eye on going into the end of May when they start to report earnings. But as of right now, I'm just keeping an eye on 212. If the market does pull, 195 pullbacks for retest longs. And then last one, Microsoft. Another move off of lows. This is probably one of the names that has been beaten down all year. Believe it's down 20% year to date from its highs. So definitely a lagger of 2026. But let's see if we can get the rebound story of Microsoft. Microsoft currently was able to break over my 400 psychological level with the overall market pushing off its lows. Let's see if we can decide to get over this 440 psychological level, and then let's see if we can start to push back into this all-time highs like 485 and then 500. Really, the target after earnings is going, if they report good earnings, is going to be that 500. Can we get back into this upward channel to when then this market can then start to push this over back to all-time highs? Just like the other names, MAG 7. Really, the only two names in the MAG 7 that are currently not near all-time highs is Microsoft and Tesla. So Tesla did report earnings, which then have the sell-off. But if Microsoft can get over it, then only Tesla would be one of the only names then would be basically not near its all-time highs going into the second half of 2026. But Microsoft, the key number I'm going to be keeping an eye on going into earnings is 445. If we do fail to get over that, then I'm definitely won't be taking a look at this until we get back under 400. So that it is when it comes to Microsoft. All right, thank you. So that is the MAG 7, S&P 500, and the QQQ names. This is the end of my recap and what I'm be thinking about this going into this new week. Like I said, we do have a very impactful week coming this week. We have possibly the new Fed chair maybe making some talks, Kevin Walsh. We have Jerome Powell doing his last conference and Fed decision. So that is definitely big. And then we do have some key economic data, FOMC decision making, and then the overall war that's going on in the Middle East with Iran, Israel, and the U.S. Let's see exactly what's going to happen when it comes to that. So, there's a lot of impactful data coming out. There's a lot of news in the Middle East coming out. So let's see if this overall market can continue to push higher, allowing for key data to allow for individual names to push to new all-time highs. And we just basically, like I said, play these key levels, continue to print, continue to make more money. But like I always say, trade smart and trade safe, because any of these news outside of the stock market can flip this market very quickly. So you just got to make sure you have your levels marked and make sure to have stop losses in place, because it could flip very quickly on you and you do not want to be caught lacking on that. All right. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, another trading week. Hope you guys have a very successful trading week, and let's continue to print and make this money. So hit that like, hit the subscribe button, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll see you guys next week. Peace.